So the Patriots land David Harris, really good player from the Jets, as the Jets just unload every good player that they have, and they're going to be a bad team next year. Boston and the New England Patriots will be really good again, and Mike Reiss joins us from ESPN Boston. He covers the Patriots, and we always can talk NFL football year-round. There's no doubt about that. Mike, good morning. Rodger Weiland, Brian Mariano, the closer here on 104.5, the team ESPN Radio in Albany. How are you today?
Doing great, Rodger and Brian. Thanks for having me on. And I always do say it's June 23rd. We're, 75 days till NFL kickoff, 76 days, whatever the number is. And still great to always talk football. We can always talk ball.
It's number one, baby. We're sitting here on a wild morning at NBA. We got local stuff going on. You can sit here and talk NFL, and it will peak the needle for sure. Let's start with David Harris. How good of a move is that for New England, and for David Harris to leave the Jets and go to New England? That's a home run ball for him.
So a couple things. I mean, from Harris's perspective, obviously the chance to compete for a championship after 10 years with the Jets, can't go wrong. This is the place to come, right? And there's many examples over the years of players that have done it, most recently with Chris Long, who came last year and sort of accomplished that goal. From a Patriots perspective, I look at it this way. Did they really need David Harris? I would say probably not. I didn't look at their linebacker core and necessarily say, wow, they got an issue there, next to Dante Hightower, but I looked at it and said, I'm curious to see how they might piece it together between a Landon Roberts, Kyle Van Noy, Shea McClellan, maybe Harvey Longy, one of their undrafted free agents. And so that question now is a little bit less of a question because you bring in David Harris, and now you figure he's a leading candidate to play next to Dante Hightower in the sort of two linebacker sub-packages that we see a lot of from them.
Well, listen, you're right. I mean, David Harris gets a chance now to go from the Jets to the Patriots to compete for a championship, and New England gets another good player. Dion Lewis, our local young player here, Mike, from the Albany area, obviously has done some pretty good things at the running back spot for New England. How do you think he's going to be utilized moving forward?
So a couple things with Dion. Number one, they haven't lost a game when he's dressed to play for them. So I think that's the first stat that stands out to me with Dion Lewis. And so when I heard some media-based chatter that, Dion might have a hard time carving out a role or even sticking on the team, after they signed Mike Gillislee from the Bills and Rex Burkhead from the Bengals, I sort of raised my hand and said, hold up here. I think you guys are forgetting, how valuable this guy is to the team. So, that's the first thought that comes to mind. And then the second thought was from spring practices, guys. Media members got to watch 5 Patriots practices this offseason, and Dion Lewis was one of the players that stood out to me as his explosiveness and his suddenness. I don't think they have another running back on the roster with that. And so I look at him and say, all right, they need him, but they need to figure out the best way to preserve him for the long haul because we know about the injury history with him. So maybe it's 15 to 20 snaps a game, but those can be 15 to 20 high-impact snaps a game.
Mike, there's been a lot of talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and him possibly getting moved, but I know Belichick's really in love with him, and especially with Tom Brady getting to the end of his career. Have there been any talks about moving Garoppolo, or what are they going to do with him this season?
Yeah, so no talks about moving him whatsoever. I mean, there's a full 100% commitment to have him on the team for 2017. If there's been any talks, really, it's about how do we maybe extend this thing out one more year, to 2018 to buy us another year of evaluation between, okay, is Tom Brady still heading in the right direction as he hits 40 years old on August 3rd? What's the gap between Brady and Garoppolo? And, Garoppolo coming up as an unrestricted free agent after the season, the Patriots could always put the franchise tag on him and keep him for one more year. That would be a very unconventional and very expensive decision for them. So maybe, and this is just a theory, I haven't heard anything concrete about it, but maybe the team would consider going to Garoppolo now and saying, look, instead of putting the franchise tag on you next year, why don't we extend your contract out one more year, split the difference of the tag over this year and next year, and then maybe it becomes a little more tenable for them to absorb him on the cap through 2018.
Tom Brady wants to play in China. Is that going to happen?
Oh, man. You know, I was there in 2007. They were supposed to play a preseason game in China, and I had my passport ready to go. I was excited for that, and then it ended up, you know, they couldn't pull it off logistically. My sense would be when that happens, Tom probably won't be playing anymore. But I think they do. We know that the league views international as maybe the next ground to sort of tap, you know, for more revenue growth. Maybe in the U.S., you know, they feel like they can still grow a little bit, but maybe the percentage margin of growth is going to be much greater from that international perspective. And China, not the only place that they want to play. There's several others that they're talking about, like Brazil. Robert Kraft told the New York Post was another area that they'd like to play a game.
Time with Mike Reiss. It covers the New England Patriots for ESPN Boston. And appreciate Mike joining us here on Big Board Sports 104.5 at Team ESPN Radio. Is there any reason, Mike, to believe that this New England Patriots team moving forward into next season will not make another serious postseason run to get to the Super Bowl?
No, there really isn't, and this is one of those seasons where, you know, the expectations are very high, and they should be, because they've put together a very good team. Now, all that being said, you know, they still got to go out and do it, and you can't just, we know in football, you can't just roll the football out there and expect to win. I just think the way this culture is, and, I mean, guys, I was, you know, in those 5 off-season practices, I can't remember the coaching staff being as hard on a team as I heard, you know, this year. And so I think with those high expectations, I think this team is going to be coached very hard. And just to give you an example, you know, I watched the defense get sent on 2 full-field laps. I mean, involuntary practice. Okay, so the players don't even have to be there, and I hear the defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia, just absolutely, you know, screaming at the top of his lungs about mental mistakes, and then he sends them on 2 laps. And that was 2 weeks after the offense got a similar reaming out from Josh McDaniels for failing to, you know, have the right personnel or failure to get a center-quarterback exchange. So to me, the only thing that could hold them back is if there's some breakdown in process, which it would just be so unusual for them. You know, the culture is such that I just don't think they'll let those expectations weigh them down.
Mike, always a pleasure. Great talking NFL football. A lot of Patriot fans in the Capital Region, and we'll talk to you down the road. Thanks for the update.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.